Today, it's all about money. Now, as soon as money becomes raised as a topic in divorce, everything goes pear-shaped. Unless you have an extremely good relationship with your ex, in which case you probably wouldn't be divorcing anyway. But the minute that one person realizes that they're going to have to hand over a big chunk of what they have to the other person, suddenly it all becomes quite kind of bitter and twisted. Now, that's because they want to hold on to it themselves. They feel that they've earned it, they feel that they've worked hard for it, and they want it, and they don't think it's fair, whether it be fair or not. They're not necessarily being rational and reasonable, that's how they feel. And they're entitled to feel that way. However, you are entitled to get your fair share of the assets as well, according to whatever the law breakdown is in your area. Now, what I want to talk to you about is kind of like take a step or two back from that point. Because the minute that money comes up on the table, especially in the lawyer's office, it becomes a difficult topic. But you need to have done your homework. So before you get to that point, if you are thinking about leaving, if you are planning your safe escape, then what I would recommend that you do is go through the paperwork, go through the drawers, go through the filing cabinet, wherever all the paperwork is kept, preferably when the other person is not in the premises, so that they don't come in and start finding you rooting around and start asking you questions. Try and do it discreetly, because if you have got copies, photocopies, photos of assets that are held, could be savings accounts, it could be pension pots, it could be other properties, it could be the property that you're living in, it could be shares, dividends, it could be anything that looks like it has a root in finance. You take a photo or you take a photocopy, okay, and you put that in a little folder, and then you can take that to your lawyer's office. Because if you are exiting a relationship where there is a reasonable abundance of money, you may need to hire a financial accountant. Sorry, let me scratch that. You don't want a financial accountant, you want a forensic accountant, because they track down the money. So if you are coming out of a relationship where there is a lot of money, primarily probably owned by the other party in the relationship, then you're going to want a forensic accountant to be able to trace all of the assets that that person has, so that the assets can then be split according to the law of what's going on and what's happening. If there aren't a lot of assets, that's fine. But you also need to be aware of what debts there are as well. So you need to photocopy or take a photograph of credit card statements, bank loans, mortgage papers, anything that contains numbers, basically, bills, everything that has numbers on it. Because the more paperwork and evidence you have, the easier it will be to get to some kind of reasonable financial settlement, because people will and do try and hide assets, which is illegal, and it is obviously taken quite seriously by the courts. But a lot of these people feel that they can just do whatever they like and get away with it anyway. So that's the type of person that generally the people that I'm speaking to are dealing with. So they feel that they are above the law, therefore they will try and hide assets. It's not necessarily fair and it's not necessarily right, but you need to be prepared. This is going to be a battle, and this is going to be a battle that you're going to have to fight to get your fair share, unless you're willing to walk away with nothing and, just start again. It all depends on your individual situation. I know people that have literally walked out with nothing but their purse, and they've started again from scratch. I know other people that have fought tooth and nail to get a fair share of their assets, and they're doing very well, because they've managed to get a decent sum behind them. So the people that I talk to come in all different shapes and sizes and all different backgrounds when it comes to money. And when you're first starting your divorce process, you're going to want to save money as much as possible, because divorce is expensive, lawyers are expensive, and the more bitter and hard fought a case is, the more expensive it's going to be. But sometimes you have to pay for the best to get the best result. And to do that, you might have to start looking at budgeting. You might have to start looking at maybe selling some assets. You might have to start looking at cutting back on what you actually spend. And you might have to look at maybe talking to family members to see if they can help you during this period and you'll pay them back. You might have to go and get a job. You might not have worked before, so you might have to go and get a job. You might have to get a second job, to pay for the divorce fees. So you're working 9 to 5 during the day, and then you're working in a bar from like 7 till 11 or 6 till 11 or something, or delivering pizzas or whatever it is. There's no shame in it. The only shame that I would apply would be somebody that can't be bothered to do anything about it and just completely ignores the situation. There is absolutely no shame in taking a second job or a second way of earning a living to pay for the divorce, to provide the funds that you require to pay for the divorce. Now, another thing that does need to be considered is in the States, if you walk out of your family home intending to move and you're moving into somewhere else, in some places that can be seen as abandonment. So before you do something like that, you do need to check on the rules in your state, speak to a lawyer, get a bit of advice, even if you just pay for 1 hour and just literally go in with all your bits of paper and just say, right, tell me, what's the score on this, and this? And then at least you'll know, because that will be money well spent. Because what you don't want to do is walk out of the house thinking, oh, I'll get half of this. And then it turns around and you get told, no, well, no, sorry, you left. You get nothing. Be like, oh, that's an expensive mistake to make. So you're not going to want to make that mistake. So first and foremost, you need to get your legal advice. Secondly, you need to get all your financial evidence. Get it all. Keep it somewhere safe. Keep it. If you are in an abusive relationship, then you should obviously copy all important documents and keep them somewhere completely safe away from the house. Under the front seat in your car, for example, or in with the spare wheel. You could hide it in there because that's not going to get checked really. But it's about getting that information safely if you're in a domestic abuse situation, which is why I say do it when they're out of the house. So if you have any opportunity to do it when they're out of the house or they are completely out of it in bed because they've had too many beers or whatever, then obviously you have an opportunity there to quickly just go and sort of have a quick look through the paperwork, but don't push your chances. Don't do it if you're not going to be safe. All right. Safety is our number one concern. Money is just stuff. And if you have to walk away with nothing and start again, that's okay. Because you can make more money. You can buy more stuff. Money is just paper. It allows us to buy things. Well, that's okay because we'll get a job. We'll buy things with the money that we get from getting a job. It's always a way. If you're committed, there's always a solution for the committed. So if that's what you need to do, then great. But the important thing to remember is that money turns good people bad. Okay, so money can be so emotional. Money can be such a... It makes me think of that, is it Frodo in Lord of the Rings? The ring, I must have the ring. Whatever that saying was. That's what it makes me think of with the whole money situation in divorce, because they get obsessive about money. They just can't bear to let you have any of their money. And they'd rather keep the money than the kids. I mean, that's nuts. Well, to be fair, they'd probably rather keep the money and the kids, but they would rather let the kids go than lose the money. Because the minute you apply for child support, things get nasty. The minute you apply for your proportion of the assets, things get nasty. And it's not right, and it's not fair, and it shouldn't be that way. But we're not talking normal rational behavior here. We're talking heightened stress levels, we're talking heightened anger levels. If you're coming from an abusive marriage, then we're talking about leaving somebody that is very bitter and twisted and will do whatever they can to win. And that includes keeping you from having any of the assets, and they will try every trick in the book to stop you getting anything. I remember I was told I'd rather burn the place down than let you have it. And I knew that they were fully capable of doing that. So, in the end, I had to pay to make him go away. I had to pay out a lot of money to make him go away. And, and it put me in a lot of debt to actually do that. But from my perspective, it was worth it to get rid. It's just worth it to get my home back to being my safe place. I wanted a safe place for myself and for my son. And if that's what it took, then that's what I would pay, because I had to weigh up the options. Am I going to pay for safety and my son and I to have somewhere to live that is suitable for our needs, or am I just create a massive big fight? Because that's basically what it would have boiled down to. Is if I hadn't agreed, it just would have been lawyers, and it would just get on and on and on and on. So I knew that. Therefore, I felt it was only sensible to just agree a settlement figure and get it over and done with. And that worked. That did work, and that's cool. But we have to remember that money kind of comes under that heading of stuff. You can always get more stuff. You can always get more money. Hi, Kellen. Nice to see you. But money is just stuff. It's just bits of paper, and there is no need to get so attached to it. And if you enter the divorce with no attachment to what you're actually going to get out of it, so you need to trust your lawyer, trust yourself that you're going to do what you can to get a fair and reasonable settlement, then that's what you're playing for. Just a fair and reasonable settlement. And when it gets to court, that's what the judge will see. If you want to take them for every penny that they've got, then you have to employ a shark, basically, and they will charge you for that privilege. So you will get more, but you will also pay out an awful lot more in terms of solicitors' fees, lawyers' fees. So it's all relative. It's all relative. It depends how much of an easy life you want. It depends how much of chaos and anger and nastiness you want to have to deal with. And sometimes peace is worth more than money. And that's the thing to be considerate of. Peace is worth more than money, and there is nothing in the world better than peace. So that is your choice when it comes to divorce as to your settlement. I'm not saying don't ask for what's rightly yours. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is be reasonable, be fair, and expect the other person not to be reasonable and not to be fair, because you're going to have to stand there and hold your nerve. You're just going to have to stand there and do the right thing for you, regardless of what the other person is doing, because you cannot control what they're doing. You cannot control their actions. You cannot control their behavior. You can only control your own. You can only be in charge of your own body, actions, words, behaviors, all of those things. You're only responsible for you, and you have to do whatever is best for you. And it's difficult, but as long as you pursue that path, knowing that what you're doing is fair and right and reasonable, then you will get through this, and you should get the settlement that you deserve through the courts. And the more the other person plays up, the more evidence that they're providing to the judge that they're not being reasonable. And you have to look at it that way. Instead of letting it impact on you, you have to just look at it, and it's almost like a game. And you're keeping calm and collected in your lane. You're just in your lane, following down, just doing your thing. Keep on swimming. And the other person over there is doing backflips and all sorts of carnival tricks to try and, make you stray off course. But you just got to keep on swimming. Just keep on swimming, keep on swimming. Ignore whatever it is that they're doing. Don't worry about whatever it is that they're doing. They can do whatever they want. But that doesn't mean that you have to get sucked into their insanity. And it doesn't mean that you have to agree with whatever it is that they're demanding. It doesn't mean that you have to cooperate with what they're requesting if it's not reasonable for you. And it doesn't mean that you have to divert from your course. You just keep on swimming. You've got the information, you've got the evidence. Just keep on swimming, and it will come good in the end. Okay? But just remember, money stuff, even if you do walk away with nothing, it's fine. People have walked away with far less than nothing. People have walked out of war-torn countries with nothing but the clothes on their backs, and they've started a new life. So if they can do it, so can you. So that was really my message for today. Is, it's all about the money, and the money can become a very chaotic thing that brings out the worst in everybody. But don't let it bring out the worst in you.